Hello, everyone. Thanks for giving us your time today. I'm Ian Hamilton coming to you from New York today, live in the UVR studios with a tablet in front of me for live comments, a mute button down there that we hit occasionally by mistake, notes I made before the show, and a virtual display for my Mac floating up here right in front of me with the Horizon OS multitasking. I've got a camera over here. I know you're all watching me through, and we put this up for audio listeners on all major podcast platforms. I'm joined here in the studio by Don Hopper from Missouri as we talk about what people are playing in headsets. And the show today is produced by the incredible Beck from Canada. I'm wearing a Quest 3 and using hand tracking with last generation Meta avatars, the built-in microphones with software made by my colleague processing all these inputs. A quick thank you to our patrons. That's XR Developer News Podum, that's developer of Smash Drums, Holonet, Mike Manzano, Richard Meller, and Aaron Bellamy. Don, what do we have today?
Well, Ian, I think today we should start off by talking a bit about the release of Orion Drift, the latest offering from the team that made, this little game called Gorilla Tag. And then after that, I think we should talk a little bit more about GORN 2's surprising reveal last week. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and our gameplay testing on stream that we did for it. And then, I know you've been teasing this across several episodes, and I'm dying to hear more and see more about it. So today we're going to premiere a 6-minute video showcasing what you've been talking about, the TARDIS inside of Resonite. And it's an amazing piece of work from a new freelancer we're working with, Kay, and she's just done an amazing job here. So I think then we should end the show by revisiting one of my favorite subjects the last month, and that's Alien Rogue Incursion, and talk a little bit about the big patch that Survios put out to address the launch issues with the Quest version of the game. So, Ian, let's kick it off. What did you think about Orion Drift?
Yeah, this is a very, very big one to see coming. You can imagine yourself, for those who haven't seen it or played it, right? Imagine yourself on a space station and there's a sporting event happening right in front of you. Maybe it's climbing, maybe it's tag, maybe it's something else like Echo Arena one day, some version of Echo Arena, right? That's not out there today, but imagine being in that sort of situation where you're on a space station and other platforms can be around you at like 45-degree angles with gravity holding them to that platform. And it's a concept that, like, if you're not a science fiction fan, right, you got to put on your headset and realize, why does that work? Right?
Yeah.
Oh, they've got different gravity over there. Wow, right?
Yeah.
It's the next step of VR. And so, like, you can imagine this scenario where your little area here has a certain number of players, a player limit, and then you go over to that platform and you switch over. And gosh, it seems like a really, 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 really big idea. And we've seen some of our first reports. We had our first report from this. Don, what do you think of it?
I actually got a chance to jump in last month when they opened it up for the very first time to have some server stress testing happen. And, it's ambitious. It really is. And I got to say, I really do love the way that you described that there. With this one, I mean, you drop into this massive space station at first, and then you have the different worlds around you. And, it just, I don't know, it almost kind of, to me, had a Ready Player One vibe in that instance, and then, of course, the fact that this is a culmination of the developers of Gorilla Tag and Ready, so they kind of poached some people from Ready at Dawn after they closed down. So, you do have some Echo influence in there. So I think there's a lot of room to grow in this, and I can see it getting bigger. Now, one thing, though, as it is with, all of these types of games, I think, one of our super fans, as we called him, Arlen, has a great point here. The only thing that want out of Orion Drift is at least some moderation of the community, given the next level toxic language that Gorilla Tag is now infamous for.
Yeah.
So,
And so I'm looking over at our comments. We've got Daniel Leeper back in our comments. We've got Arlen, of course. And then Beck is out there commenting. I see Robin out there. Thank you for being in the comments there, Robin. Dunadim. We've got very active people out there. And then Kay Guillory is out there for that conversation. I'm very, very excited to talk about the Resonite TARDIS here. We've got KC Chiefs Productions out there.
Hey,
Saw
Casey.
someone else out there excited because it's Tuesday and it's not Monday,
It's
and
Tuesday.
that this is the World of Warcraft Vault Loot Day, I guess.
I
And
guess, yeah.
we need you to take care of yourself. I'm not going to entertain point number 3 on your list of things out there. I see Not Suspicious out there. That's the developer of Tablecraft as well as Airspace Defender.
Love
We've
that
got some
guy.
really, really cool things in the works there. I've been talking to Stanford for years now,
Yes.
and about their work in education. I brought it up on multiple shows, and I talked to them a little bit about Tablecraft. I brought up Tablecraft there, as well as these installers who are putting VR headsets in schools. We're going to keep bringing up Tablecraft because it's such a phenomenally cool piece of software that we just kind of discovered on stream, more or less, right? Like we knew it
No, it really
existed, but
was. I had no idea. I mean, and once we did discover that on stream, I think both of our brains just caught fire with the educational potential, of that app. So yeah, this is going to be a fascinating discussion if we end up setting that up.
I see Robert Quinones out there, and then
I
Daniel
do.
Leeper has just donated to us.
Uh-oh.
So they just put
Uh-oh.
money into the arcade cabinet to troll
Yes.
us with some harsh trolley comments there.
Yes. Yes. You know
So
it's coming
Daniel, we
now.
understand why you did that. And Beck's already in the comments confirming it. So both in virtual reality and in Canada, in 2 countries there, Daniel, it's recognized that why you made that donation, and what we missed you.
You've missed it.
Yeah.
Yes, Daniel. We always do. We love you.
And
So,
I just want to say, for anyone out there who's built a TARDIS, who wants to build a TARDIS, who's a Doctor Who fan, stick around for that
oh
conversation,
God, it's gonna be so
because
cool.
it's getting right to the heart of me. I think of your heart a little bit. I think we see a little bit of the heart of many people in that video
Oh,
come across, and
absolutely.
so I'm just so excited to show it to everyone. All right, what's our
Absolutely.
first subject again?
Well, I mean, we were talking about Orion Drift,
Yeah.
kind of going back to that. I really did want to jump in yesterday and get some gameplay footage. Unfortunately, lots of news happened and, life happened. But I do plan on getting more time in that game. Maybe we'll do that one on a stream one day. I don't know. I don't like to stream a lot of multiplayer stuff, but it is an interesting and fascinating environment. I mean, and I do love all of the different modes that you have in there. Now, obviously, the drift ball. I mean, that's really my favorite. The only thing is just like any of the other Gorilla Tag style games, get ready to be tired because that boy, after a while, that gets rough. So,
Yeah, so I'm showing people, like I saw someone mad that like something like Echo Arena instead of, Echo Arena, right? There was such this beautiful community. Now, I want to point out, I think if we move off of this subject, let's move off of this right now, but
okay.
I have put out the request across the VR gaming industry one at a time in email after email now here of inviting devs onto our streams in the same way that we had Not Suspicious in
Mm-hmm.
here for Tablecraft with as well as the other one,
We
Airspace
did
Defender.
yeah, Airspace
Yeah.
Defender, and we had
And
Ian
so
McNeil, and
yeah, E. McNeil, Andrew Ike at
Ryan Payton.
yes, Ryan Payton. So we've already built over just, I want to say, 2 to 3 weeks here a quite a list of guests to come into the studio, and almost everyone that I've reached out to, to ask if they want to come into this format has said yes.
Oh yeah.
I want to come onto this format. So we're having to build out a schedule here of how do we build repeating guests, how do we set expectations for you and our audience that you come into these dev streams. What do we even call it? We're still undecided because
It's
not everyone who joins us is necessarily a dev.
mhm.
As we get into this later in this show, as we get to the heart of the VR market, I think, and we show what people have been building in Resonite, I think we'll start talking about how, like, that's not, the people who made that, you wouldn't call them developers by a traditional sense, but
Mm-mm.
it's still as much creation as you could possibly imagine a developer doing. So, like, I don't know, it's just we've got a lot of things to deal with as we unfurl this story with our audience here.
There's a lot of fascinating paths that we're going to be going down for
So
sure.
So the thing I want to bring up, so go tune into VR Download on Thursdays with David Heaney. I won't be there this week because I'm traveling. Going to go to Austin for just a couple days here and check
Oh,
out a couple stories that I'm trying
it's a
to
city
get out
that's
of
near and
Austin.
dear to my heart. I love that. That's like my favorite place in the whole world, Austin, Texas.
I know. I mean, yeah. And I'm gonna see some really cool parts of Austin when I'm
Oh
there.
man. Yeah, we'll
I can't
talk
wait to bring
offline. I
that back to you.
got some places that you need to go eat.
Yeah,
So
so and I was looking at the temperature. It's in the 80s this
it was
week in
beautiful.
Texas, right?
Beautiful.
Oh my gosh. All right, so I'm going to go there and we'll bring that back to you. But go tune into the VR Download where we get into some of the broader things uh in the industry. We cover some of the larger trends. But here on the Gamescast, we're talking about the way people play in VR, the
Mhm.
way the games we play and the types of play that we engage in VR. And I like Arlen saying, I like Resonate, but it really beats the crap out of my 3060. Yeah, do not judge the video that we're going to show later by the
Yeah,
frame rate in the video. Like, that frame rate that you see in the video is like, I mean, that's Resonite, I think. That's
it
partially
is.
Resonite. You gotta
Yeah,
deal with that.
I've tried Resonite maybe a couple of times just to see what it was all about. I haven't really dove too deep into it, but even on my rig, my 4090, there were some areas that were still stuttering. So,
So there's this idea I want to leave us off on, and that's what I want. We will continue this particular conversation on the VR download, and this is that we just published a story. Go to uploadvr.com to check it out from David Heaney, quoting Andrew Bosworth, the CTO at Meta. And so this is the same person that essentially would have made the call on ending Echo Arena because it's not using the right technologies underneath the hood that Meta wanted to promote at that particular time. Well, right
mhm.
now, Meta is all in on Horizon Worlds, right? And we haven't seen Echo Arena pop up out of anywhere. We haven't seen Echo Arena resuscitated. Where does Echo Arena come back to live in this world again with us? And the people that founded Another Axiom aren't going to
Mhm.
let that game die. Like it's going like whatever the sport is there, you don't just you don't just stop playing your favorite sport. You figure out a way to play your
Yeah,
sport in a new setting. Like just because they close down the outdoor arena doesn't mean you don't go play soccer at the indoor arena and figure out
right.
how to modify the game for indoor arenas. Like that's I am convinced that it will come back. The question is how. Now, here's the reason I'm going on this is Another Axiom has raised an enormous amount of money off of Gorilla Tag. They said that they had $100 million plus raised for just that title alone. Remember, that's like that thing exists, I believe, on Steam and on Quest,
Quest.
and I think also is there a version for Sony? I can't remember if it was coming. It was like
I would have to look at
planned.
that, or maybe I think it's coming to PSVR too.
But what we saw were games being played with games about, in the early days of Rift versus Vive, games getting delisted in one place and moved over to another place. And like
Hmm.
you get blockages put in certain places where like certain games won't play on this headset unless you install this third party piece of software. Well, we're in like the cutthroat winner take all phase of the evolution of personal computing here towards these VR headsets that we're wearing. And a game like Echo Arena, right? As tragic and heartbreaking as it was for that community, here's my question. What sort of control or tendrils does Meta have over what Gorilla Tag does with its future, what Another Axiom does with its future? So the fact that Gorilla Tag exists in segmented ways, in certain ways, I don't think it's a one collective server for. If I remember correctly, when they were going to launch on Sony, they were going to launch as without crossplay, if I recall.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If any Gorilla Tag fans out there, but you can imagine that they've got, as Arlen is pointing out, with that toxicity, they've got a really tough thing to deal with, right? How do we create a very big community that is also very respectful of one another or not actually like tearing one another down constantly? How do you create this progression from I'm a spectator to I'm a top tier player in a particular VR sport? Well, I think that's what Orion Drift is big enough to contain. Like, it can contain that whole idea, and it can contain multiple sports. And my question is, how tied is another Axiom to its meta's future? Because I wouldn't like the way that they've tied. Like, there's certain companies like Golf Plus, which is magnificent what they're doing with Golf Plus, but that is a huge vertical of content where just they have the licenses to virtual versions of physical locations. And there's not many versions of that in VR, right? And so if you own the golf courses, if you own the sporting arenas, you actually own a lot of the places that people want to go congregate in. You own a lot of the places where all the social connections happen and you form your friendships. That is ultimately the echo of what we just heard Andrew Bosworth say in that article from David Heaney on our site. And that's exactly what we'll get into on Thursdays during that VR Download podcast. We get into that deeper subject. So I just wanted to like give that minute, a few minutes here to say,
yeah,
that's what we'll get into on that show. And it's a very, very big question. How much independence does another Axiom have going forward? And how important is that for the future of VR?
I really hope they do, because I mean, look at what happened with Ready at Dawn. I mean, so just out of the blue, I mean, we have one of the most popular esports games going, and then Meta just pulls it. And Arlen brought up a good point. He says, "Aren't there rogue servers of Echo Arena and Echo Combat?" Sorry, got a little tongue tied there. And there were, I believe, until Meta shut them down. So you ask how it kind of lives on or whatever. Well, it doesn't. If Meta has their thumb on that scale, they can shut it down at any time. And if you try to, as a fan, resurrect it, they'll shut you down as well. Marvel Powers Unite, same thing.
So we would love to have another Axiom in that format. I put the formal invite out there to them.
Absolutely.
It's up to it's in their boat of whether they say yes to it. But we would love to foster this conversation, right? This is a big, big open question. And when there's exactly one person in the world who can like answer it, and that's the founder of another Axiom of, how do you approach independence with Meta? How do you protect the legacy of the sport that you loved as you go into the future? Does it need to be called Echo Arena, or can you call it whatever the heck you want and be darned with what Meta, bought and killed, right? Like, that's the very, very complicated question. Hello to Alex VR. Hello, Robert Cornelius. What did he say out there?
Who? Robert?
Yeah, Robert said, "I would think if we had said Echo Arena is not coming back, we're working on other games, that it might have inspired someone to create a similar game. Otherwise, we'd all wait for a sequel." Yeah. Oh, important interruption. We have a...
Hello. People can now hear me on the podcast.
Wow.
We have an important interruption with Beck. Last week, we asked people to send in pictures of their animals with VR stuff, and Arlen sent in...
Oh, he did.
A cat.
I love it.
A cat
yes.
on a
Okay.
cat.
It's a picture of a cat.
What's the name? What's the name of this cat, Arlen?
To that. Yeah. What's the cat's name?
He did send it in. I think it was Trax. It's
Trax.
the Doctor Who one as well.
Okay. Right
on.
on.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Beck, do you have my cat on a cat?
Trax.
I didn't save that one. This is fan service.
Oh, this is fan service.
It's just for the fans.
I just wanted to say how it was awesome. No, I know, but I wanted
Don's
to say
gonna
how
go get in his
awesome.
mixed reality headset. He's gonna get mad. He's gonna start streaming. He's gonna hijack the stream from you, Beck.
I wanted to say how awesome it is
Trax.
that Arlen and I had the same vision.
The same picture, yes.
Yeah, it's literally almost the same. Mine's a little more, posed because it was for a thumbnail.
Yes.
But,
absolutely. All right.
That's all I wanted
to say. That's it for me, guys.
All right.
Thank you, Beck. That was delightful.
That was great.
I have a good feeling now. I hope our audience has a good feeling. Thank you for bringing us.
This is a new segment, an interruption from Beck. We got to keep this going.
Yeah, no, that was a big surprise here. She just upended our universe with a cat.
She didn't even tell us about it.
There's nothing better than that.
We didn't even know that was coming. So
fantastic. Thank you for Strax. A cat on a catwalk. Arlen is on point out there. And I saw Arlen did go over to the Deadpool and Wolverine dream stream that we had. And I pinned Arlen's comment over there as promised, as I was talking with as I was talking with Batman Arkham Shadows game director. We want it. We want Deadpool and Wolverine. All right.
Oh God, I so want that so bad.
All right. Well, so let's, another Axiom. Please come on. Let's get playing
Yes.
Orion Drift in our format here with Don here, and let's get into that deep discussion on the future of VR and how you really, do right by the fans of Echo Arena over the great span of time. All right, let's talk about Gorn 2.
Let's
I
do
was
it.
joking on this one, Don, that we should have just made the headline something like Gorn 2, more of same.
More of same, but
Yeah.
good. Yes. Ugh. Yes. So, yes, it is more of the same, and that's actually a good thing. If you liked Gorn, it's more of the same but better. And I got to tell you, we jumped in, and as you guys are probably seeing now on the screen behind us, Beck and I streamed that on the night of the drop. I'm going to call it a drop because nobody knew it was coming. I mean, I'm sitting there in Slack, and all of a sudden I get a message from Henry Stockdale, and he's like, "Did you just see that Gorn 2 came out?" And then I'm getting messages from Ian here going, "Oh my God, we got to stream this. There's no embargo." So we scrambled, and we did an actual primetime stream. It was our first stream in primetime. That was an interesting hour to be streaming. I know we've tried some late night stuff. We've do our regular time slot, which is around now for most of our shows throughout the week. But had a good time playing that, and it brought back a lot of nostalgia. I mean, this is a game that I've seen or played on and off since 2016, 2017, and it is hilarious, but it is also Gorn. So, it is a very brutal, gory, cartoonish in a way, but very brutal and gory game. It's been a decade since Free Lives has put the original Gorn out. And, what we're seeing in this one, a little tighter in the graphics, obviously, much better physics, lots of new weapons, lots of new traps, but still the same premise. You're just still fighting the big half-naked guys, in the arena and just brawling. But I got to tell you, so some of the new enemies, like there was these chickens that were shooting eggs at you, and they had these like big, overly comically muscular arms. It was just hilarious fighting those. And so I can see this as something that is a good game for stress relief. I can see it, as I did when the original Gorn came out, a great game for working out. Put your favorite playlist on and just like go to it, break a sweat. I just don't see a lot of longevity in it outside that. I mean, it's like I said, more of the same. It's just mostly fighting. There's some little extra elements there, but you're just going to go in the arena and bash gladiators.
It's interesting. I mean, like the first one did so well with that premise, right? Maybe more of same is all that's needed there, or maybe not, right? Like we don't know how the market is going to respond to that, but like more of same but better, right? Like is exactly what I would hypothetically want out of a Gorn 2 sequel. The question is whether it is able to find those people because of all the distribution problems.
I guess it's interesting too. I guess I do like how they structured the little backstory to it. That basically it's like a decade later and you've died or something and gone to heaven, and now you have to fight all the guys that you killed before again. And there's 5 different realms of heaven, and so I mean it's got a little bit more meat than the original one, but it is once again just more of the same, which is not a bad thing if you like Gorn. And there's nothing wrong with some of those, what I call mindless, just, time waster kind of games where if I just want to jump in and just relieve some stress at the end of the day, or, like I said, just get that heart rate up a little bit, this is a great one for that purpose.
Yeah, it's interesting to think of the differences in vibe between something like Pistol Whip or Gorn, right? Like that's a rhythm version, but it's still kind of the same itch it's scratching at the end of the day, right? Like, all right, well, I'm loving the discussion on Gorn in our comments, and people saying it's too many body parts, too bloody. Yeah, it's one of the things that we're discussing on an ongoing basis here at UploadVR. I've joked with Beck and Don out there, they should be playing Blood, the unicorn, the mixed reality unicorn slaughter game, but it has to have an 18 plus tag on it, and it has to be played like at night after dark, right? Like you want to see what a bloody living room looks like in a unicorn murder for 15 minutes before you turn it off and move on to the next thing. You don't play it for more than, you don't go murder unicorns for more than 15 minutes, I think, right? Like I don't think it's a
there's no meat in it. I mean, well, no pun intended. I didn't mean that way, but you know what I meant, I guess. I don't know. Now, with Gorn, though, I will say, I mean, as we were streaming it, it was getting a little brutal, a little gory. We do try to keep things mildly family friendly, even on our, nighttime streams. So the nice thing about Gorn is they do have what's called a pinata mode. And most likely, if the video is still playing, on the screen right now, you're going to be seeing that where you can change the blood to candy, I do remember even all those years, this is like where I'm going to win the horrible father of the decade award, letting my very young children play Gorn because they were fascinated by the big guys and it was goofy and, but obviously I'm never going to let them play it in that way. It was in candy mode. Now, I don't remember the original, and maybe somebody in the chat can correct me. I don't remember when you turned on the pinata mode in the original if there was still dismemberment. I think Beck brought that up on our stream, that it was nice that you can turn on the candy, but you're still ripping the dudes' heads off. Their body parts are flying everywhere, So it was like it really didn't kind of sink it down to that family friendly vibe that you would hope for, that you would maybe want to let your kids play. So
I like that Beck has put up a poll, or maybe it could be Robin, put up a poll into our comments here. What is the best companion animal? A pretty, fluffy, kitty, witty cat, or a stinky slobber monster? And the thing about it is, Beck, the way that your poll has formatted itself for our comments is it's overtaken the comments area. So we can see that 12 people have voted.
Yes. Whenever we do that, I can't see any of the comments.
So, and what it forces us to do is now we have to ponder that question for the entirety of the like we have to wonder about the pretty, fluffy, kitty, witty cat and the stinky slobber monster. We can't think about our comments.
I'm going to say both because I have two of the pretty, witty, fluffy kitties over here, and then I've got one of the slobber monsters here, and the other slobber monster is probably slobbering all over my pillow in my bedroom because I left the bedroom door open. And I hope that's all they're doing back there. But
oh my gosh, my cats are oh yeah, we got the polls done now. We've got our comments back. Yeah. We've got 14 votes, and it tells us that it is the pretty, fluffy, kitty, witty cat. Yeah. That is the winner.
Well, yeah, we had cat on a cat. I mean, it's a cat. It's a cat's world, and we're just living in it. I am cat.
This is the best game of last year. Do you see the trend, people? Like, think about all those gamers out there that or all the developers out there that spent so much time on their menu systems and
oh gosh, yeah.
We went over that with Not Suspicious, where he's like, I've got this whole subsystem in this game that nobody really accesses, nobody uses, and someone makes the I Am Cat game and just you open the app and suddenly you've got pause, right? How do you compete with that? I just spent years on a menu system someone needs to spend 5 minutes in.
Yeah. That's it. I don't know. I mean, sometimes that just shows that the simplest concepts win. Yeah. Gorilla Tag, come on, $100 million.
Are we ready to talk about Doctor Who?
I think we are, Ian. I'm very, very excited for this one because, like I said, I know you've been teasing this week after week, and it's something that it's a subject you've been very excited to talk about. So let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
Yeah, well, hold on the video for one second, Beck, before you throw it up there. We're going to want to throw this one full screen with sound. Oh, yeah. It's about 6 minutes long, so we'll go away when Beck throws the Doctor Who video up here in a minute. But I wanted to introduce it before Beck throws the Doctor Who video up. Are we good, Beck? Does that sound like a good plan to you? All right.
Yeah, maybe talk for a minute.
So I've got a minute here to talk here as Beck goes and cues that up. And what I wanted to say is that I got very little sleep last night because I was editing this video that was sent in from our reporter, Kay Guillory. And I basically asked her to investigate the reports I saw from these very comments here, CJ, in our comments, from the show that there is a working TARDIS in Resonite. Well, it turns out that after I saw this video in Kay's report, that the truth is much stranger than we've imagined here. There is, of course, not just one TARDIS in Resonite, but perhaps an infinite number of them in an endless ball of timey-wimey stuff. Perhaps these TARDISes are merely being unearthed by their creators rather than built by them. Perhaps these features on these ships are being discovered for the first times by humans finding them in VR. What if you, a simple human with no knowledge of how time works or what lies in the dimensions beyond ours, accidentally pressed a button on the TARDIS console while it was in transit? What if the first time you learned about Doctor Who was when you became a companion on an adventure with a Time Lord, leading a troop through the door of that ship and out into the world beyond? Well, Kay is asking the right questions. Can you show that video now, Beck?
These are all the different versions of the TARDIS that me and Gamer created.
This is all of them in order from basically where we started to where we're at now.
Yep.
So this is an early one. Oh, this feels like the first Doctor's TARDIS, I think. Kind of a little bit.
Yeah, that's what it's based off of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Don't touch anything. Van Gogh TARDIS. One of my favorites.
Yes.
We changed the exterior to the Van Gogh TARDIS, so it would stand out between the other TARDISes.
Is that one of your favorite episodes?
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm a painter,
Yeah,
and
easily.
so that really struck a nerve with me. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, if I could just travel forward to the future.
Even if you're not like an artist specifically, just a creator in any fashion, it just pulls at the heartstrings of pretty much any creator.
You're just drowning in this sea of engagement. It's like, I just want to make art. If you could implement anything into to the TARDIS without worrying about coding at this point, what would it be?
We know what that is.
More rooms.
Yeah, domains. Where basically it's going to be a future feature where basically worlds can automatically connect between each other, so that in theory we could make unlimited amounts of rooms in here, and they would just be other worlds that you would be able to just seamlessly go between. So you could have an infinite TARDIS without any lag or coding issues.
The TARDIS to be at the point where it's good where people say, "Look, it's the TARDIS. I want to explore," and then they just end up getting lost in it. This is the TARDIS I used for the majority of last year.
That's not like a pre-baked animation or a GIF or anything either. That's done procedurally,
That's cool.
off in the distance, and then recorded.
And this is the camera on the outside. You can see the exterior camera.
The monitors rotate in this version.
Yeah.
Whoa.
First version where they move.
Oh, that is cool. He also added the time.
Yes.
Oh, and the experimental teleport user into TARDIS. I accidentally switched his name in it, so he would be in the middle of talking to someone, I join, and then he's in the TARDIS.
You join the world, and I'm just like yeeted into the TARDIS away from my conversation. First, when we first started doing it, we really just wanted to do like some rough concept. Before this TARDIS existed, nobody thought that doing what we're doing with the TARDIS was even possible in here.
Yeah, the day that I did the first world trip of the TARDIS, I spammed it with messages saying, "I did it!" The very first photo I took after I got the TARDIS to world travel.
You just had a picture of the TARDIS sitting in the middle of a field.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah,
How did you feel in that
so-
moment?
Oh, I was ecstatic and so happy.
Yeah.
I was like, "It's possible! It works! It works!"
When he sent me that message, I was like, whoa, okay, I gotta jump into the game and see what's going on. It started off by one of the other creators in Resonite creating a base model of the TARDIS, and me and Navy taking that, throwing
At
on all
first,
of his
he-
other models and stuff like
At
that
first,
as well.
he thought it wasn't possible to bring it to other worlds.
Yeah.
And
So we
then when
threw
I
a different
figured
model
out,
on it, and then added a bunch of features to be able to make it world travel and stuff like that. And the original creator didn't think it was possible to be done, and we messed around with it until it was actually done.
What do you usually do in this area? You just like res stuff and do nodes and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Programming.
build like a grid space.
Speaking of nodes, All right, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's
All
go.
right, let me get over and out. Yeah, I'll just put the engine in.
And that's Protoflux, which is like this is your wow.
Yep, that's Protoflux.
That's the visual
Okay.
coding wow.
This is the power.
This is what powers the TARDIS?
This is what literally makes the power and the lights turn on or off, basically.
And there is much more code as well. Me and Gamer went through all the times in Doctor Who when they were exploring the TARDIS and stuff and wrote down, and these are all the rooms that we know so far by canon that the TARDIS has.
Can two TARDISes exist in the same instance?
Yes.
Yes.
You just have to move the main interior to a different location, or else they'll
Yeah.
clip into each other.
So basically, you could have people in TARDISes just traveling around Resonite. How many
Yep.
TARDISes can an instance handle?
It
That's a great
depends
question.
on whose TARDIS you're talking about.
It depends on which TARDIS and stuff like that. Like, some of the TARDISes are way more laggy than others. This one's one of the more optimized ones, so you can
Yeah, like
handle
most of the
multiple of them in a
TARDISes in
second-
here,
in a instance.
Like most of the TARDISes in Resonite are known to crash when people bring them out because of how laggy they are. Where with this one, this is as optimized as you can possibly get with a TARDIS because it's my method of transportation.
That's fair.
Very, very cool video. Everyone out there processing it. Very cool video from Kay. So thank you for that, for sharing it. And I love that the commenters are trying to understand it. There is a point in that video where you go, is this VR chat?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is no, it is Resonite. It is a different platform. And I see people trying to wrap their hands around what is Resonite. Saw some people mentioning furries. Like I think there's furries in every community. The question
I
is,
think so.
what's the first time experience when you go in? And I see Kay out there talking about enjoying invisible mode in Resonite.
Yes.
So basically going on to what amounts to a social VR network that is a sandbox of just whatever you want to do, you can do, and turns it so I'm invisible, so no one bothers me, right? Like ultimately, that's a pretty powerful thing
You're a
to be able
ghost.
to go
Yeah.
to any world you want and be invisible and not really be able to be reached by others. That's a really cool thing for Kay to bring.
I got to
up
say,
there.
when we were doing the VR chat series, I would have loved to have had that capability to just be able to go through the worlds and see how people are interacting, but not have them running up to me and getting in my shots and things like that as a content creator. So that's huge.
So if
and
any-
it is. I'm sorry, I was going to say it is really blurring the line. I mean, Resonite is very similar in ways to VR chat, but I think Arlen has a great comment here. Resonite is the metaverse we all want, but not the metaverse we all have computers that can handle. Because again, there are parts of that really are performance heavy.
Well, so Casey Chiefs Productions asks a really fundamental and beautiful question here. Why would VR chat not just steal the good ideas Resonite has? Really, really wonderful question.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't Horizon just steal the really good ideas that Resonite has? It's a fantastic question. It's the implementation here in how this thing uses your system, how it uses VR, how it interlocks with other people, how it reaches across the internet, and how many assets it pulls down and when. All that stuff isn't easy, right? Like it's honestly the most difficult problem in all of like consumer technology being attempted right now by Rec Room and Roblox and Microsoft with Minecraft, with all of these platforms, trying to figure out how do I suck you into a place from whatever device is in front of you, but also make it so that when you put on a VR headset, you're there.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's, do you make one that's better on the phone, or do you make one that's better in VR? Do you make one that's equal on both, right? And that has some sacrifices on one or the other? what we see in Resonite is a really, really interesting project. So if anyone out there who's involved in Neos or Resonite, if I'm wrong on any of this, please correct me in the comments. So if I'm misunderstanding the evolution here. But Fruxius is the main creator behind this technology. And they had previously created a technology called Neos. And they brought in partners on the development of that project, including a partner that decided to focus on crypto as a big portion of what they were doing. And that essentially ended the entire effort, right? Fruxius, this entire took their brain power and moved it to Resonite and restarted from scratch, right? It started from, a blank blueprint. And so what you have here is a single mind here architecting their second version of how to get this right. And what you're seeing here on this video and these people that are toying around with these TARDISes is like, what can I do if I really mess around with these tools?
Mm-hmm.
And so your question asks a really fundamental idea of why wouldn't a bigger company go and steal these ideas and implement them in their platform? Well, because they've got other priorities that they have to balance, and the time isn't right for them to have done that, right? Maybe if Meta had bought VR Chat back in 2016, this would have been a done deal. Like they would have closed down the whole book on social networks. But for some reason, VR Chat decided we're not actually interested in that, right? We're interested in something else, and went off on their own without VR Chat, right? So you have this platform in VR Chat that is very, very immersive and will keep you in there for 8 hours plus if you really want to let it on PC. But on mobile, you have to have downsized avatars. You have to have a downsized world in some instances. And it's now on VR Chat to figure out, how do we actually make tools to make this downsizing process automatic, right? Okay. And so that's a 5-year project. Like that's a massive effort you have to put engineers and servers behind on how do we make this work. And what the question becomes is like, is Resonite built for the right idea at the right time? Is VR Chat the right idea at the right time? Or is Horizon the right idea at the right time to become this social layer that we all are more or less forced to use over the long term, right? Becomes this layer beneath us, like the Oasis is in that Ready Player One novel.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And you were talking about the models. Actually, I did not know this. Arlen brings up a good point. I keep calling out Arlen. His comments are always very thoughtful. Resonite is also all locally user hosted, the world instances. So whoever's hosting the world needs to have a pretty beefy rig. I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it becomes really, really fascinating to imagine, right? Like, so you imagine the situation where, like, what if Dawn went and got a 5090? Or, what if Dawn got the I don't know if they still do the SLI 5090.
No, SLI is not. I don't think of SLI like in traditional gaming, maybe, but it's really never been a thing for VR. It kind of messed it up.
So Dawn goes and gets a 5090, and I go and get a 5090, and we outfit this thing with the best specs imaginable so that there is absolutely nothing in the pipeline to decrease our experience, right? And what we do is he puts in an asset of the globe, right? He puts the Earth floating right here, and it's a model with 100 million polygons. I don't know, some stupid number, right? And it looks like the globe to me. It looks like I can lean into it and see all these details. Maybe I can make out islands really small as I zoom in. But you on your Quest 3S out there want to come and join Don and I on our 5090 rigs. How does the system get you a version of this Earth that Don can actually set up a camera over there and let the flat screen people see what he sees? Like it can show you on the camera over there that Earth looks so incredible to him. But if you try to come in here in another VR headset, like a Quest 3 that has no power whatsoever, you're going to see probably a floating block. right,
Mhm.
as your first object. You'll see a block here instead of a sphere. And then you will wait for the system to say, oh, he's on a Quest 3S. He is capable of seeing only 4 sides to this, 12 more sides to this
Right.
object than a square. And so now you get a few more sides to this thing, and it looks a little bit more like a circle than a square before. But this is the path. This is literally the path. If you're on the chunkiest machine imaginable, the most low-powered machines imaginable, some of these social networks you go into Figment XR, okay, for instance, and you're not logged into Sketchfab, which is from Epic Games. There's a chance that when you go into a space and you're on a Quest 3, you look around and you just see a bunch of cubes.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't loaded all of the textures and geometry of these objects, because your system literally cannot do it. And so what does that look like, right? What does this world look like where if Don brings in a single object that breaks the system for everybody else, like how does it survive? Is the VR experience for everyone on Quests out there just it works, but you look around and you just see a whole lot of squares or a whole lot of cubes everywhere?
It would be difficult. I mean, there would have to be some dynamic scaling going on for sure. And, I don't know that, there's also other things. I mean, if you have a distributed system like that, as Arlen was saying, that Resonite is like, well, okay, it's not just the graphics card. What's your processor? How much RAM do you have? I mean, what's your internet connection? It's, so there would be a lot more. It's almost like the torrenting of VR spaces. It's like how many people are running it, how many people, it's like, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about how we will scale this forward as headsets start to get more disparity, between the higher end PC VR and some of the, the more entry level stuff, wanting to do these worlds together, wanting to exist in these spaces together.
Yeah, well, I love KC Chiefs Productions. All these complications makes me want to skip forward 20 years, assuming they figure it all out at some point. There's a cartoon out there that's made the circulations in the VR fans for years, and it depicts a person who says, I'm not getting Gen 1 because it's a big, bulky, wired system. And then they're 10 years older, and they're like, I'm going to wait until it's the size of glasses. And then you get to the really old version of this decrepit old person walking with their cane. And now the holograms are everywhere. And they're like, I missed it, right?
Yeah.
Like I missed the whole journey. And we're not missing that journey, right? We're reporting on that journey step by step.
That journey.
Yeah. And you're on that journey with us. And I totally get that thing. And so that's ultimately when we have debates over on VR Download, and I think Don is a little bit more understanding than the community that we have that tunes in for that specific hardware breakdown. But like when you want to go get your 5090 card, or you're not actually getting the 5090, what you're going to get is the low end version, right? You're going to get the one that's priced for you. Of the new card. But you do it almost like year-long or multi-year thought process of how do I upgrade my home? How do I protect myself for 10 years to come on all of these technologies? And that you go and buy a graphics card to fulfill your need for a couple of years. And it ends up being like this key component you fit into your whole landscape of I want the worlds to look this pretty in this many places, and that's what this graphics card is for. And so everyone ultimately at some point our audience is like, yeah, I do, like I'm going to get into I don't know if it's the 5th generation, the 6th generation, 7th generation, or 8th generation, but I am going to want to go and get a world that's as pretty as the 5090 we just showed off 2 weeks ago, right? Like, it's just a question of like, I don't have enough money right now. What is my path to get there? How do I get to the worlds that are that pretty? And Quest is going to get you there super quick, but that doesn't mean the rest of us aren't, biding our time, waiting for big graphics update. Like, I don't I don't think I want to trust the servers to paint my reality for me, right? Like, I don't want to see the bush over there suddenly res out and go low resolution because meta servers couldn't get the bush texture today properly sent over to me. I would rather it be in my control, in my tower here at home. And there's plenty of people out there who are in that exact same boat. And so we get into these fights in the argument, like these people who just can't see that even though someone bought a Quest 3 today, their intention over the great span of time is to upgrade from there, right? Like they're still invested in this ecosystem today, but they are going to go somewhere else later. Anything interesting in the comments we should talk about?
I was just looking through. I mean, basically, people are just talking about 5070s, 5090s. Robert Cronona's had an interesting. He says, I haven't been following the cloud VR scene, but is that how people play Resonite if they don't have that kind of PC? I'm not sure on that question, but that does bring up a good point as to what Ian was just talking about. I think that really is where we finally get to everyone having the same experience is when we do perfect cloud gaming in VR. And that way we're just logging into banks of 5090s that are playing the game and everybody's on the same playing field. Everybody's getting the same graphical experience.
So Kansas City Chiefs Productions, if everybody played VR and had the best specs, would the Oasis be possible yet? Recall that in the 2018 movie version of Ready Player One, they established 2025 as the canonical launch of the first version of the Oasis. So if you're asking, is 2025, if everyone in the network was outfitted with 5090s, and they launched the Oasis on version 1.0 of the Oasis launches on 5090s as the min spec, would we be there? Would we have the Oasis? And that's a fascinating question. Fascinating. If you think about the end of that movie, right, you have a 10,000 avatars waging war on planet Doom, with every single one of them running and interacting and throwing objects between one another. No, we are not. You cannot do that. But remember, that was the 2045 version of the Oasis, right? Like that was the one after 20 years of progress in building it, right? All those little things that maybe you could fill out over time with the cloud servers that might be in Ohio, as Arlen,
Columbus.
Arlen is already set up there.
I was going to say, he has the best internet, and who's to say? I mean, we travel to conferences. Who's to say that sometime next year I'm not sitting in a small room and Robert Halliday is up there and hands me a headset that looks like a DK1 with no front? I mean, it could happen. We don't know what people are working on, and I'm not going to use this as an example, but kind of back to our discussion of GORN 2. That came out of nowhere. Even us as people who play VR, live in VR, write about VR, make videos about VR, I had no idea that game was coming. So things can still be secret.
So Casey Chiefs is just firing on all cylinders with those fundamental VR questions. If the USA decides that TikTok can stay, can Pico come to the USA as well? I think that's a fascinating question. You're talking about a lot of cameras on every VR headset, and you're talking about them used in ways that you don't use TikTok. It's a very, very fascinating question. I would like to know what the intel is that is informing Congress to be concerned about those things, right?
Yeah.
What is happening behind closed door sessions? To members of Congress in the United States, what is being told to them by intelligence agencies that would inform their concerns over banning something like TikTok, just in general, or Pico and VR headsets is a whole other deal beyond that. Right. All right. So good question. And that it's something we would explore more thoroughly on VR Download.
Okay. And for
Yeah.
anybody asking why my hands are doing weird things, Big Winston just came and jumped in my lap. So
I could tell the moment the cat. I can see his
you
full
know the
outline.
motions. You know the motions. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Well,
He's
my
being
cat.
very needy with the storms going out. We have some bad storms going on outside my window right now. Possible 60-mile-an-hour winds and
God.
hail, and gotta love being in the Midwest at this time of the year. But it does make the animals a little nervous. So.
Oh goodness, Rodney here. Just need to get my hands on an HP Omen VR backpack from years ago and see if a 4070 Ti at least can fit in there.
Wow. That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
I have one of those backpacks. So HP years ago sent me that hardware, but they didn't send me the backpack. They didn't send me the battery. So I had the PC in its mounted form here, with a laptop version of the processor that, what was it, 1080 or whatever.
Yeah.
But no backpack to try it with, right? Like I couldn't strap this thing on and put batteries in it. And
man, I'd have been modding that. I'd have been finding a backpack and finding a way to strap a battery to it. And
I've been waiting here, right? Like I need the HMD to handle my comfort. So this getting VR download stuff, but HMD just needs to make me comfortable moving my head around.
That's true.
And maybe show me my hands.
That's true.
The rest of my power needs to come from like either a strap on my body hanging right here, as it does with the Vision Pro, or the Magic Leap 1, which is the wrong type of display system. And then, then maybe this pack right here also grabs other packs nearby of additional power to suck and put into my HMD. But
a Batman utility belt, like full of batteries, and
so you gotta have cooling. If you do the backpack thing, you gotta have cooling.
That's
and suddenly, like, what if it's heating everything else in your backpack? What if you have like a drink in your backpack? Suddenly your cold, ice cold water that you brought with you that was in a sealed water bottle is warm when you get there because you put it in your backpack with your world building.
Man.
Oh man.
First world mobile computing problems, I tell you. That's like
I saw a puck. I saw Meta is going. He's trying to promote the puck. We'll see, right? You've got the.
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know.
So,
all right, we got one more big story today. I love the
do.
commenters going on. We've got more viewers than we've had all stream. If you've enjoyed this discussion about the TARDIS, please hit that like button right now. And send other TARDIS Doctor Who fans. Don will make sure to timestamp it afterwards.
Absolutely.
So you go straight to that timestamp. And I haven't finished looking through Kay's video of the TARDIS. There's still a few more minutes of video there from the creators of the world and these tools that I can go through. But like the video that I haven't gone through yet it's all imagination play. You can see, like, I think that 6-minute video that I showed gives you the fundamentals of like, these people are actually trying to build a working TARDIS that can go from world to world inside Resonite. And by all accounts, they're making great progress.
That's wonderful.
But the rest of this footage is like, these people have just spent hours endlessly talking about Doctor Who lore and mapping out what their dream clubhouse would look like, essentially, with a room to represent every different bit of lore in the Doctor Who universe. Like, these are people creating a wiki in VR, essentially, that they can now role play inside of at any time to live out their fandom. It is very, very close to what we imagined in Ready Player One.
Oh, it is.
But it's also just beautiful to see, right? So we'll unfold some of that.
So close. I mean, LARPing, man. I mean, I used to do that back in the day before VR and computers. I mean, back in the late 80s, I was part of the Society for Creative Anachronism, and then we did like LARPing and, you did all that and it was fun, but now you can really embody your character and be in fantasy worlds and, so sky's the limit when it comes to the role play. And I think we teased it and it's still something, it's a work in progress, but I am just super excited for, whenever we all get together and play Bridge Crew as a group of dedicated Star Trek fans. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. All right. So Unabridged Gamer has just popped up into the chat, and thank you for your comments. And it's a fascinating subject as we get into the Alien Rogue Incursion here, but they're talking about Jedi Knight, Star Wars Jedi Knight via side quest. Was there a Star Wars MMO, and what was it called?
There was a Star Wars MMO, Star Wars Galaxies. I played it for about a good 6 months. I don't know. It just something about it didn't really jive with me. It had a really cool opening, had a cool story, that was kind of setting up the world that you're going to live in, and there was a lot of stuff you could do, and it definitely had a Star Wars vibe. I think you started on a desert planet. Maybe have been Tatooine itself, but I don't know. 6 months in, and I just stopped playing. I just lost interest. It was too much grind. Just too much grind.
And so, think about that. All right, too much grind, right? And what I'm seeing in the Resonite, the TARDIS, is people that are just role playing, pure role playing. Like they're in that mindset of, I am in the TARDIS, and everything you're doing here has to be reflective of being in this universe, of being with a physical TARDIS, like with a real TARDIS in my space with me. And that's the flip of the mechanics of an MMO, which try to hook you on a game mechanic, not on the social role play interaction. Like that's something you get when you get there. It's something you sort of dive into. Yes, you spent an enormous amount of time on the character creation screen, but when you go into VR, you don't necessarily do any of that time at the character creation screen, right? You actually create the character through your actions.
Exactly.
Right? And it changes the entire flow of how do I get into this role play. And so like all those MMO, if you decided to make an MMO for VR and you had a character creation screen, did you screw up right there? Right? Like that's the type of thing you have to think about when you're making VR games, right?
Well, I don't know. I think the character creation is still important because people, if you're going to spend all that time embodying a character in especially in VR, that other people are going to see in the world.
You just made an assumption.
I'm gray right now. Nobody sees me, but I'd love to be able to create my avatar again.
I've got a stack of world building books over there for D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, and I've only leafed through them. I haven't gotten through them really well. But you made the wrong assumption there that you would have to be embodied within the MMO world. Okay? The assumption should be that there are ghosts and spirits who are disembodied at a layer and don't need to be represented as avatars. And in fact, there's plenty of people who would just love to explore the world that way.
No. Well, and like we talked about,
be little
Resonite,
cameras in the wall.
Yeah, like do the invisible mode in Resonite. So I kind of almost switching gears, but I gotta say I really, Robert Quinones put something in here that got my mind going here. So he says, just thinking, in VR and AI, we could have one of those Star Trek maker boxes, the holodeck, and have it actually make anything we want and virtually hold it with minimal delay. Now, that kind of stuff is actually already starting to happen. And I think, I know, Ian, you have done something similar where you did the speak it into creation thing. I know just on last week's stream, in a very rudimentary way, we did Waltz of the Wizard, which I had not been in a long time. And I had not seen a lot of the advancements in that game. And one of the things is voice control and voice recognition. So the skull reacts to what you say. And there are certain parts of the game where I can say, make me a ball. And a ball just appears, that I can play with. And we really didn't get into it as much as I wanted to on the stream. That's a rabbit hole I could have gone down for hours just asking it, make me this, make me that, and seeing what it would actually do. But we're about to start seeing that in some things like Resonite, like in VR chat. I could see it coming there eventually, where you're going to see the marriage of AI and the computer vision. You're also going to see the AI avatars. I mean, the NPCs, I'm sorry, that's something I am desperately waiting for. Is, we're starting to see experimentation with Skyrim mods where you can go into towns in Skyrim and have full conversations with villagers that have backstory and they remember, like they have a little bit of persistence where you can leave the town, come back, and they'll, oh, hello, traveler, welcome back. And, So it's about to get holodeck nuts up in VR spaces. It's like
So to put a little bit of word, like specific examples to what Don was saying philosophically there. Banter is the world that
Banter,
I was in
yes. Sorry,
from
that's what I was
SideQuest.
thinking.
And to give you some context here, this is pure speculation analysis on my part, what I'm about to say. But we confirmed via reporting done live from virtual reality, from this seat in virtual, like I was sitting here on a VR download a couple weeks ago, and we got information from this community here that told us that there were layoffs at SideQuest.
Yes.
And then I went and confirmed it while in chat and using this computer over here that there had been layoffs at SideQuest. And people have sent me more information about what's going on there, even though the CEO at SideQuest has largely stopped giving me information. So I've got a very good insight into what's going on there, even when the CEO of the company themselves isn't really wanting to talk about it too much. And the situation here is that, right, like you've got a changing market.
Yes.
And you've got a platform that was reliant on being the side loading platform to a platform that is changing, right? So it needs to figure out, how do I survive? SideQuest does, and the CEO of SideQuest needs to decide, how do I employ people, be relevant as a platform 2 to 3 years from now? Well, maybe one option is I lay off a whole bunch of people and go focus on a different thing. Okay, that's what it's called. I can't think of the word. For startups shifting in a new direction. Pivoting, yeah.
Yes.
It's called a pivot, and that's what the whole move feels like. He's SideQuest is hoarding resources in order to raise money later that can then be used as a platform by which to start generating revenue from some product that they've built. And so a couple weeks ago, I went into Banter, about a month ago now, a month and a half, and they had this cool tool set built where they had shown the entire flow, and you could go find this, I think, in Banter right now, where all I do is I speak a prompt. I say, I want a cat in VR, and boom, it takes that voice prompt, turns it into text, and then I select that button, and it turns it into a photo, and then that photo, or that image gets turned into a physical object. Now I've got an object floating right in front of me, and it's got a whole bunch of errors. It's a gross object. Like there's pieces coming off of this cat that aren't human or aren't real, right? Aren't physical. Like if I had an actual cat that looked like this, I would take it to the vet immediately, right? And so I've got this cat floating in front of me, and this was the flow that they've got in Banter today. They've done this voice to object today. And you can imagine me as a reporter coming in here going, wow, that's good enough to report on. Let's go write an article. You go find that article on UploadVR.com. Banter has AI generation in its world. Really cool idea. It's proof of concept. Now Shane Harris at SideQuest has just impressed a reporter with this Banter social network world, and he's going, the market's changing. Meta may change all of its platform rules on me here. I'm running out of money, and AI is looking like it is actually able to generate 3D objects for people to pull out and actually do steps 4, 5, and 6 on this process, which is, oh, I just used the AI to generate a crappy 3D object. Now let's shave off all the ugly parts,
right,
and turn it into a real nice 3D object and put that in the repository for everyone else to use. That's what Meta did in a different way, right? Meta had this way of piecing together shapes from the building blocks of Horizon Worlds. That's gone now. Now it's just a PC-based editor. All this stuff is happening all at once. It's all related. And if it's confusing out there to you, like, we understand, right? This is what our shows are about, is very much trying to dig in past that confusion. So those questions are like, we love those questions. We know how they feel, like basic VR questions. Like maybe they'll jump on me and make me feel bad for asking this basic question. Don't have that feeling when you're coming to one of our streams, right?
No, never.
Always new people are coming in this and going, why is this working this way? And there's a very good explanation.
And we are always happy to answer those questions, no matter how basic. So I just want to say hi to Gamertag 83 for joining. So
yeah, they're saying they only use SideQuest to install APKs that I don't get from SideQuest. Yep, that's their problem, right? How do you survive as a platform with AI generations coming? And like, how do you raise your next round of money to employ another group of, the most highly paid people in the world right now, right? Like those are the people SideQuest needs to go and hire in their next round. I don't see how that works.
Yeah. Because it comes up all the time. We haven't addressed it today. A Deb Master, why is the man gray? Well, the man's been gray for a long time. We're hoping that eventually Meta gives me my pigments back once David updates the studio, which is upcoming. We do have a deadline on that where we're going to be appearing shortly in our new avatar forms, and hopefully mine has now got pigment back. But it is something that we have been working on. It's become lore here at UploadVR. So Graydon blesses you for your comment, and hashtag not a cult. So
yeah, I put this subject. Maybe David will surprise us one day and move us to Horizon. Maybe that's the future of what he wants for this studio. And if he does that, we'll have a discussion about it, because I put this question. We all went through this internally. Like, what would it take to take this studio that's done in Unity and like port it over to somewhere else?
Right.
And the thing that I was pointing out, like, if this was a real TV studio, if this was Good Morning America, this should be a window to Horizon Worlds on the other side of this window, or maybe
against the glass.
There's actually glass windows on either side of this, right? So there's a glass window there to Horizon Worlds. There's a glass window here to Horizon Worlds, and then we have our TV screen here, and people can come up to the glass here and make weird gestures if they really want.
Like, it needs to be that wall, because you don't want to see people behind us. That would get distracting.
Well, but that's how Good Morning America did. How do they manage that? Because you could, if you really wanted to, on a TV.
I guess our backs are turned, so we really don't know.
Well, what's fascinating is, so you imagine the reporter is standing there outside, because you see this all the time, right? You're standing outside with the mic, and they're standing there with the cameraman pointed at them. So there's two paid people there to report this, right? And they're standing there and they're waiting for the news person, you in the studio, to hand off to them. And so they're just standing there for a good 10 minutes. Well, the people that are trying to troll you for 10 minutes behind you, they gotta wait. They gotta wait until the camera over there, until they see the on-camera performer actually go, hi, I'm here at Times Square, and then that's the time that the trolls behind you actually go and do things. So, like, I'm not too worried about them in the back waving at our audience, right? What I'm worried about is them getting up and taking the mic away from someone else who was speaking, right? We need one person at the mic asking a question, and we need to be able to mute that mic should the question go in a really weird direction.
You're not supposed to tell people I'm ticklish. Just saying. But it might be gray. I don't know. But yes, I will miss Graydon when he is gone. Yes.
Arlen is saying that UploadVR is the NPR of XR, and pointing out that Good Morning America is on ABC. Yes, I love that. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I think we've gotten over we've gotten over the hump here on us conceptualizing ourselves as, how do we fit into people's day, right?
Yeah.
Like,
we're working it.
It's fascinating, because like some of our people are at nighttime in a whole nother part of the world.
Yeah.
But they recognize that we're in our daytime, right? They recognize that they've tuned in during our day.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, there's late night shows where people are falling asleep, and sometimes that's the morning for other people. Oh, fantastic.
I mean, I think that's why we're trying to kind of diversify our streaming a little bit. I mean, we've been doing some prime time, some late night, some, it's like I don't know. I was like even kicking around the VR nightly news. Every night at 5 o'clock. Going live for 30 minutes to recap the top VR stories of the day. I mean, I just all sorts of. It's kind of funny how you guys get to watch us sometimes, like literally go off track and start planning whole new shows right here on the show.
Oh man, yeah. Well, Dev Master saying they cook a lot on our shows. Someone else saying that they would listen to our shows as they're going to sleep.
Oh,
And honestly, like I get it, right? And honestly, we're at the top of our game here of trying to like
We're
wrap
getting
our
there.
heads around the industry, and you are part of helping us
Absolutely.
do that, right? Gamertag out there, he's been in this for years. Robin,
Oh God, yeah. We just had Paradise Decay join, another OG from back in the day.
and like
So,
at the end of this, right? We talk about all this stuff. Like, what would it take to keep you using Horizon Worlds? And like, it looks like Mark Zuckerberg and Andrew Bosworth are like crossing things off the list. That it's just, oh, that one isn't the one that will keep people using Horizon
throw it
Worlds.
at the
That
wall.
one
Did it
isn't the
stick?
one,
Nope.
right? And they're running out of things on the list.
Beck is getting us in the chat. This show is we have totally derailed and gone so far off topic. It's not even funny.
But we were doing good for our viewers, right? I think
We
people are
were.
loving this. This is
Okay. So like, this is
the
what we were
core of
talking
it.
about. I think we just do a show that has no topics, and we just come in here and just chat live with the audience. Sometimes I think that would be a wonderful show.
Well, I mean, I joked with this with Don yesterday, right? That it would be entirely feasible for us to do our workday half and half, more or less, in the studio. So imagine you've tuned into this show, and I don't give a darn what you people are saying in the comments, right? Instead, I'm focused on my 3-window computer display here, where I'm looking at my messages for work, and I'm talking to our writers about what they're working on. Kay out there, right?
Yeah.
Kay is going to be working on a write-up of the thing we talked about earlier in the show, the VR
cool.
chat. Well, what if I was I had my keyboard right here, and I'm typing to Kay right here, and I'm not paying attention to any of this over here until it comes time to hit publish on an article, or there's something new that's published on UploadVR.com. And then I turn to the comments and go, oh, hey, everyone, I see you all have been out there watching us. Good to see you out there today. We just published something new on UploadVR.com. I could feasibly do that for 4 hours a day pretty easily.
We
right?
talked
Like,
about
I
taking
could spend
shifts. Yeah.
half my workday doing that, and I would be as effective or even more effective focusing my work that way in that platform with those tools in front of me than if I was doing it any other way, period. Right? Like, if I was out of headset with my laptop right here, I'm sending a signal to my household that actually my top priority here for this time while I'm at my laptop is the place around me, right? And no, that's actually not the case. When I'm at work for those 4 hours, and I'm just, because 8 hours is a bit hard to call us doing a stream. So imagine I'm doing that 4 hours, and then Don is the afternoon shift, right? He comes in at halfway through my day, and I spend the rest of my day the way I already do 24/7, right? I go look at Slack on my phone. I maybe pull out the laptop for a few minutes to do a bit of editing or respond to a longer email with a physical keyboard. But like, what if 4 hours of my day were spent directly in this audience with you guys in this way where I've stacked all of my priorities in the right way, right? The audience knows that we care about them, but we can't talk to them right now because we're dealing with the news that's on this screen that's over here.
Yeah. I mean, you're like, it's like it'd be like a voyeuristic peering into an office almost.
And so newsrooms used to, I've talked to editors. There was an old Rob Curley. If anyone is in the Northwestern United States, I think he's the editor of Oregon newspaper. I don't know if he's moved on from there, but he was my editor for a little while, and he would always come over to my desk and talk to me about the latest technologies, and very forward thinking editor back in the day, and always thinking about how do we make newspapers work in the digital age. And he talked about examples of newsrooms who had invited viewers into the newsroom meetings.
Mhm.
And if you've ever seen The Paper with Michael Keaton,
Yes, love that
there's
movie.
a good depiction of what one of these meetings looks like. They're often, they're scandalized for, like they're like anything else, they're fictionalized for television and TV. But imagine you got 15 people that are experts in their communities, right? In a different aspect of their community. You've got 15 people, and they come in at 7 a.m. To a meeting, and they go around the room, right? Number one, in sports, this is what's happening today and the things that I have my reporting team on. Number two, business. Okay, these are the 4 companies announcing earnings today in our community, and I've got an article on the layoffs from X reporter. Okay, now and you go around the room. Editorial, what are your opinions today from the community that we're going to publish? You go around the room, and there have been attempts from newsrooms to publicize that meeting. But what you end up having is a bunch of news people joking about news, like being really blunt, and like they say things that piss off people that are watching
course.
out there. And we're trying not to do that.
Well,
also,
yeah.
right? We do
Yeah.
we do those conversations privately.
That's a different thing. That's offline. So no, man, I got to tell you. Okay, so like this is a very interesting topic for conversation because people do like to just watch things like that. I mean, some of the most popular streams on YouTube are just nebulous, just day in the life streams. We were talking about Horizon earlier too. Bringing up Arlen, another comment here. Also, if UploadVR had a studio/office inside Horizon Worlds, like Impact Reality has, that we could visit, that would be a reason to go into Horizon Worlds.
So Kay out there, basically that's what being a VR reporter is like. Boss man Ian tells me to go investigate something, and then I pop in like Paprika wearing a DC Mini. Oh man. And I just gotta say, so before we move on to our last subject here with Alien Rogue Incursion, thank you for that work, Kay.
Yes.
It's a beautiful video, and what came across was your curiosity and your enthusiasm for what these people had built in VR. That's not common amongst people. I'd like to see it more often. I'd like to see that curiosity for, just what other people create. And I want to foster that more in this community. Like, I want to see more of what you did there, and I want to see it from more people, and I want to see it from you, and I want to see it from Dawn. I want to see it from myself. But I love the way, meeting with a person in VR and saying, tell me what you did here. Right?
Yeah.
Like, tell me how this works. It's such a beautiful way of connecting with someone. And you don't do it in the chat. You don't do it on the flat internet, right? You don't have that interaction. It's just like, it's always the other type of conversation. What's the word? The word that people are always getting. Oh, I'll think of it later. All right, Don,
you're
let's
not
get into
giving me
Alien.
enough context to pull it out of your brain.
Yeah,
today,
no, I'll pull it out when you're talking.
Yeah, of course you will. So, okay. So I guess that is a good enough time to transition over to our final subject today. And Beck, I'm sure you saw my notes, but unless people want to watch Waltz of the Wizard for a while, we'll probably need to skip a little forward in that video. But Alien Rogue Incursion. Okay, so this has been the bane of my existence since like December of last year. I've played this game so many times on now all 3 platforms. So we finally got a patch last week for the Quest release. And you guys who did not see my coverage of that or the stream that we did, you can know right here, right now, I was really disappointed in it. I mean, I'm a huge Aliens fan. I loved Alien Isolation. That was the first game that ever actually literally just scared the tar out of me in VR. And I was really hoping for more of the same with the game itself. Obviously, it was more of a shooter, and there's nothing wrong with that. When I reviewed it on PC and PSVR 2, it was probably one of the most gorgeous atmospheric worlds that I have inhabited in a while. and just had that creepy vibe. I mean, it did really make you feel like you were in kind of one of the Aliens movies. Then it came to Quest, and it was delayed. We know it was delayed. Now we know why. It was rough. I mean, that first day playing it on launch was absolutely rough. The graphics were probably some of the worst I've ever seen on Quest, and I'm not discounting Survios at all, but to have text that was so jaggedy that you couldn't even read it on the displays, that was just, what the heck is going on here? So, I mean, all the atmospherics were missing. The aliens literally looked like they were painted Halloween costumes running around. It was just kind of nuts. So, flash forward about a month later, Survios releases the patch, as you're probably at this point seeing here on the screen. It did improve the look of the game on Quest. Did it get anywhere close to PCVR, PSVR 2 levels? Abso-freaking-lutely not. I mean, there are some atmospherics there now, but it just doesn't have that same polish. Everything that's black still has a blue tinge to me. It just doesn't have any fear factor. It just doesn't. And I'm sorry to say that. I really hoped that with that extra month and after the delay that we would have gotten something a little bit better on Quest than we have so far. Now, is that to say that they're finished? I don't know. Survios hasn't mentioned anything about another patch, but hopefully they are, because the one thing that this did bring to the Quest version is performance issues. So they increased the graphics. Now it looks better. It's passable, at least on Quest, but now it's very jittery. And it's to me, I would have much rather played a smooth game with very, very lackluster graphics, at least still being able to enjoy the story and, to play it from end to end without frustration. But now everything is kind of a jittery mess. And I don't know. I really, really hope that developers start to realize that it's okay sometimes for these very ambitious games to skip Quest.
Yeah, so I know Onikaze coming at it from a different angle of wondering whether we can have a separate reviewer just consider the Quest version as its own thing.
I mean, maybe I'm being too harsh. I don't know. It's just
no. Well, no. Like you play 1 minute of footage, and you will see the differences. And those differences will inform whether you want to go get a Quest 3 or a PSVR 2 or a PCVR
headset. We did a graphics comparison. I'm saying see it right there on screen,
that 1 minute
side
of video
by side.
that Don did at the start doesn't need a lick of opinion. It doesn't need a word of editorializing. Anyone can go and look at that 1 minute of footage and be informed about whether I'm getting the alien experience I want if I get a Quest or a PSVR 2 headset or a PCVR headset this season, right? Do I want to go over to my friend's house where I'm the biggest alien fan on the planet, and we're gonna do a double showing. We're gonna go watch Aliens with James, directed by James Cameron, and then I'm going to go play in his PCVR headset instead of the Quest I've got lying at home. That you can't consider these things quite that siloed, right? You can't quite, this is what all the Quest users experience, and that's what it's like in the Quest universe, right? Like, I get that, but also there's a fair amount of those people in that universe that are like, what do the waters look like elsewhere? Right? What would it look like if I had gone to a PSVR 2 or if I had gone for the other version? So, like, I get the balance here, and like, there's going to be plenty of people who are going to play the Alien experience and go, yeah, that was a good experience on my Quest headset. But watch, like Survios alone had maybe this isn't true. Survios alone has access to the player data that shows 60% of players lop off after hour 5 on PC, and 40% of players lop off after, they've got that data on when players quit the game, And I'd be willing to bet there's some interesting things we could learn from that kind of data, right? How many people complete a game when the graphics are like this, with the benefits of wireless, right? Like you actually have an A/B test now,
Mhm.
right, on the market that says how many people complete this story when they're wireless but with crap graphics, and have a wire but good graphics. We have an A/B test for that, and Survios holds the data on the answer.
So, looking through the comments, I think everybody's kind of. Some of people are echoing my sentiments. I got let's see here, Unabridged Gamer that said, "I do understand your frustrations. I had similar experience with Metro Awakening when I reviewed it for Games Critics. The text was lagging like crazy, and a bunch of other issues. And it is. And I did not expect to have the same experience. Okay, it's not like I'm thinking that the Quest 3 version of Alien Rogue Incursion is going to be a direct one-to-one analog of what I saw on my 4090 PC or my PSVR 2. What I've been saying the whole time is that I know that it could have been better. We've seen better. So that's my break point right there is that it's you had this game, you have this big IP, okay, this huge IP that you're tackling, and you're ambitiously going to put it out on all three systems. But Quest all of a sudden is just not looking good. You have to delay it. You got people out there that only have Quests. They're seeing this footage. They're seeing this PCVR footage. They're seeing this PlayStation. They're seeing our coverage, and our graphics comparisons, and they're just getting excited and going, okay, well, they delayed it. I know it's going to be, at least close to what I'm seeing, right? I know Quest has limitations, but it's got to be close, right? And then they get what they got on launch day and even after the patch. And it is a real head scratcher for me.
And so Chris Richardson, it's fascinating bringing this up, right? So someone is ignoring streaming PC graphics to the Quest with no wires required. Of course, being the best of both worlds scenario that some people are arriving at. There's plenty of people that are, picking an air network router specifically to maximize that experience. And you nailed it, right? I love you bringing that up as a use case. What I kind of want to bring up is we did even in that scenario, right? We did our 5090 comparison video a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of people like that is that scenario where that's a person in our community and now a writer for our website who's like, my system is tuned for exactly what Chris just said. And here I've even overclocked all of my components to try to offset for the fact that I'm going to be wirelessly streaming this. And you still get people in our comments going, this isn't representative of what I wanted. What I wanted was to see what this looks like. And then they've got this other commenter out here. I love CJ saying, when I want to play No Man's Sky immersively, I play it in VR. When I want the best graphics in No Man's Sky, I play it flat. Very, very, very interesting thing to think about. Compare that to Walkabout Mini Golf, where you have the exact same graphics on different platforms. That's not what's interesting is I've got a tour video coming out later this week with their latest course, and they said that they dialed down some of the things on the Quest 2. Mm-hmm. So I played it through on the Quest 3, and that was the kind of headset that it got mastered for, at least from my view. But if you go into it in a Quest 2, certain things, they'll more aggressively hide more of the content from you. So you'll maybe not notice the graphics are degraded, but it will happen around you. Well, it's fascinating to think of, like, do I want that trade-off? Do I want the same graphics no matter what platform? Or do I want the prettiest graphics on another? Like, there's a weird flip here in our community where a lot of our people out there, they'll go pay $2-3 grand for the graphics card to put in their PC so they don't have to make that sacrifice when they go into VR. Mm-hmm. I understand that desire in your heart. I don't want to make that sacrifice. I want the same pretty thing on flat that I have in VR.
Yeah, no, I mean, you want to play, you got to pay, and I mean, it is definitely a sacrifice, that some people are willing to make. I am not one of them. When I'm in VR, I want it to look absolutely as crisp and sharp and beautiful as I possibly can. And I know, and there was a comment up here, and I want to address that real quick, but I lost it here. Hold on. Yeah, Simon says VR. I think we're asking too much from a mobile chipset. That's what it all boils down to. Although I love the standalone and the readiness of a Quest compared to a PC VR setup. And yes, again, I wasn't expecting apples to apples here. But seeing games like Red Matter 2, like Asgard's Wrath, like Behemoth, I mean, graphical powerhouses running on the Quest 3, it shows me that this game could have looked and performed better. That's my benchmark right there, is that we've seen other ambitious titles hit this platform and look and run better than what we've gotten even out of the first patch.
Yeah, so I like Dunadim's comment here, and Don, I'm going to ask you to look over the comments there for any last ones we want to talk about as we close off the show. I want to call out, who was it? Casey Chief saying that they won't be able to comment for the rest of the stream, but I want to say I love and really appreciate this channel and community. It's the reason I look forward to Tuesdays and Thursdays. That means an enormous amount to us. We look forward to these days as well, and I'm pressing on everyone I can around me in every possible way I can to make this more frequent, to up the production values of these things. And Beck is moving mountains out there with the production value. Don is moving mountains as well. And then Henry Stockdale and David Heaney are keeping the website flowing with an incredible stream of news for us to discuss with this community. So it's a small machine, but it is working extra hard to bring you the latest, and we appreciate that you're seeing us out there. We try to see you as often as possible. I think it was Onakaze and Sub last week in a members only play session in Walkabout Mini Golf. That was cool. I'm not ready to do that again this week, but it was cool last week to get into VR and actually go face to face with a couple members of the website. It was a really neat thing, and they're also big members of our community here on the YouTube channel. And it's fascinating. Like, we're trying to give you all benefits from all the ways you enjoy us. So, like, you enjoy these interactions, we enjoy these interactions, and we only have so many hours in a day to split apart. And like, I loved that we had a whole section of this show where I want to say several people in our audience all tried to schema out exactly how our dream newsroom scenario would work. Yes. Where I can mute myself to them, they can mute to me, other people from like, they're all trying to architect it, just like David Heaney's trying to architect it. And we've tried VR chat, we've tried different platforms. Beck has one for us to try very soon. And just a fantastic experience we're building here with you in our community. So thank you for being part of this. Those comments make the world go round. I'm convinced more and more, the more I see people doom scrolling, that like when I see people doom scrolling, that's just a person who has yet to experience what we're experiencing here. Absolutely. In a community, right? A real back and forth that feels and flows the way the community, the way it does in a real room. So one day we will get into VR with you. I did that with a couple members last week on a stream, and maybe we'll be back next week because I won't be traveling, and we'll be back. Oh wait, am I traveling next week? When is GDC? We got GDC coming up. I was gonna say I got GDC coming up. Yeah. Hold on. Is that that's the scary thing right now. I'm trying to make everyone around us do more of these dev streams for you, while also it's entering travel season, and travel season is a nightmare because we lose key people who have reliable internet, reliable computers, and now they're suddenly with bad internet and their most portable computer. So next week, next week I will still be here, and then we can still try to do
a stream from GDC. It might be rough, but we could
Well,
give
we
it a
got
shot.
Beck. If Beck's producing, I think
Beck's
that
pretty
takes some of
good,
the
if
some
I
of
got good
the.
Wi-Fi somewhere, I can just take a quest and just dip off, or just be voice that day. But yeah, I will be at GDC the 17th, 18th, and I'm sorry, the 18th, 19th, and 20th. So just for all of our viewers out there, I may or may not be on the stream next 2 weeks from now. So.
Yeah, I fancy a game of Walkabout. Ian was already be. I like Daniel. I just assume anytime I fancy a game of Walkabout, Ian will already be there waiting. I did
in
test
Walkabout,
out
don't you?
Walkabout as my office, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say you just want office in there, and
I did. There's a spot up in the Coyote Valley,
Okay.
Valley, the one with the sheep, and there's a spot up on the hill overlooking the entire valley. And they should put a desk up there. I joked with the people that that's your desk, and you should sync that up to your mixed reality desk only on that course. And yeah, I'll just give you a room code, and if you want to come in and meet me, you could. Like, that is the flip side of this studio. If we wanted to prioritize meeting you all face to face, we could do that pretty effectively from Walkabout Mini Golf. Wow. So it seems like we've introduced Beck and Kay out there to one another. So thank you. Dawn, you met Kay over chat
today.
this morning as we're going over that video. So we've got some cool connections out there as everyone is meeting one another. Yeah, get those meetups going inside VR if we don't manage them. And email tips at uploadvr.com if you have anything interesting to share with us. I think there's also a spot on our contact us page. I want to encourage you to become a member at uploadvr.com. Those members are supporting us in the biggest way possible. We get the biggest cut of money from that support on the website. That said, people who are supporters of us here on YouTube, we see you, we see your names here, we call you out whenever we can. It means an enormous amount to see your support here for us over on YouTube. And yeah. And Onakazi saying, I hear Kay and just think Men in Black.
That earlier.
Yeah, so Kay is my reporter in VR, and they go around with, instead of a memory wiping machine, they will show up with their head as a camera, and they will be recording what you got to show off in VR. So that is Kay, the Upload VR reporter. So
Daniel
thank you for
Lieber
that.
Just dropped 2 more in there. So
and they didn't even troll us that much this time. So
I know,
just
but
putting
he's
in
paid
money
twice,
for next
so
time,
he should like we got a big troll coming at the end, or either that or he's banking it up for the next episode.
Right. He's trying to. Well, we remembered you put extra money in the machine. You've got 2 credits there. We get it.
So do we have to start calling her Agent K now?
No, it's Reporter K. It's Reporter K.
Yeah, Rep K.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys. We'll see you all in the future. Tune in to David, whatever he does for VR download. I don't know, because I will be in Texas.
Oh yeah.
Right. So we'll see you all later. See you in the future. Thank you.